My name is Jen Kempka. I have been teaching in the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District for 15 years. This year, I am teaching sixth grade math and science, but I have taught everywhere from sixth grade all the way through eighth grade math and science, and I love what I'm doing. I primarily use project-based learning to keep the kids engaged, so that's where Zoe really came in handy. What our big project was creating their own fantasy island. So when the students they came up with the two-dimensional project to begin with. This was a project that I had done several times before. So they created the two-dimensional first, and then I introduced and said, actually, we are going to be not only doing this as a poster and writing, but we are going to be creating scenes from your island in virtual reality. And the kids went nuts. So they were able to, they came up with all their own ideas. They came up with what, first it was the theme of their island. They came up with that. And then they were able to, from there, just completely take off. So they decided to, we had people creating D&D islands and like cow islands and just random all over the place islands. It was amazing. So all the different things that we saw, it was really, really cool. They drew out their posters, their island to begin with. And then when they had a solid grasp of what they wanted it to look like, we said, let's head into the VR. So I introduced them to Zoe. It was something that was completely new to everybody because I work with sixth grade this year. Going through that kind of gave them a tutorial of what they wanted to do, gave them a little bit of time to kind of play around with it first, because them being so tech savvy that they oh, what's this and what's this and what's this? And they kind of were able to put a lot together. And then we worked into, okay, now that we know all the basics of Zoe, how are we going to actually put this together? We made sure that they had some interactions in there, made sure that they were able to go like around and they went nighttime, they went underwater, I had a couple of them in outer space. We really kind of took our time with getting them to be able to understand what Zoe was like and being able to get them to create and manipulate all the things that are in there. So it was really, really rewarding, especially seeing some of the students that I hadn't seen for a while. They started showing up to class. They weren't late to class. So with the VR aspect, we were really trying to delve into the science portion of it. So when it came to them, it was the real curricular part was, how does interaction with an ecosystem change the aspects, and the how can human interaction change ecosystems, and how can other organisms affect other organisms in the ecosystem. So we did have curricular aspects go along with Zoe as well, and so that was one part of it. And then another part was, we talked about our weather and water unit has things like our populations and ecosystems has food chains and food webs, and going through the water cycle and talking about that. So we made sure that somewhere in their actual Zoe project that they were able to demonstrate, how does this actually work? So they were bringing in clouds, they were bringing in they had rain and bubbles and all sorts of stuff. So it was really cool to see how they actually worked some of those things in there. I think watching these projects come together was something that I wasn't really sure how it was going to look with my sixth graders. I had done a project last year with eighth graders. And so these were finding some of when they were able to come up with some of the assets, they looked through the assets that were available to them. And some of the things that they found was, I remember one scenario. A student found they had a fire department, and they had fire trucks all around a house, and there was a house that was on fire. So I was like, where did you even find this stuff that you're putting in here? So the creativity of the students, I think was one of the most surprising things that I found. It never ceases to amaze me what they can come up with. I personally struggle sometimes with organization, and so being able to keep the structure that I want I think is something that moving forward, I will definitely look into. I will definitely make sure that I am a little bit more structured that way, checking in where we need to, making sure that they aren't just making sure the students have enough time to work on things, but at the same time that they're still staying as focused as they can. What we have right now is we have one set of headsets, the one classroom set, and it's 15. And then we have the iPads that connect to them so they can work with a partner. Um, the set of headsets that we have right now was from a grant that we have in our building. And I actually talked to my principal about this and about the fact that I know that there are other teachers who have wanted to use this as well, have had other ideas, have had really awesome ideas, but unfortunately right now if somebody went through the training that I went through with Emily and with the Zoe crew, then they were able to use it. But at this point, because it's through the grant, those teachers, unfortunately, for right now. So I said, you know what, though? This is something that they actually want to do. This is something that the teachers are interested in. They know the students would be interested in. So I know that at this point, there's definitely talks about how can we get more so that we can do more. Having it be tangible is something that just really, really helps. And so being able to say, hey, in this app, in Zoe, you are going to be able to create this. You know what I mean? It's no longer just on paper. And it's no longer just necessarily on a Chromebook or on an iPad. The kids came up through elementary school on an iPad. They know digital, they've seen digital. But being able to use Zoe and say, hey, I've got this headset on. I've got the controls in my hands. My hands are the ones moving them around and being able to manipulate it that way. I think that was something that was really, really special for them. And I think that that's something that really they won't be able to forget. You know, all of those things that we kind of put in, it's not just on paper, it's not just on a screen, but they use their hands to be able to manipulate what it was that they were doing. Oh my God, do it. Absolutely
Yeah.
do it. The advice that I would give is that it is scary to think about at first. And it is something that I would absolutely make sure that you go ahead of schedule and make sure that you are in the headset and looking through everything as well. There are so many things that update and that change. And so as if the teacher knows how Zoe really works, then they are definitely going to be able to guide their students through it. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, some of these teachers who are like, this would be so awesome for my kids to be able to create it. And oh, somebody said it was just like this game. I said, it's not like the game. Like this is a perfect project. I wish you would be able to do this. But for someone who has never put the headset on and for someone who's never even looked at Zoe, I'm like, you are going to struggle in helping your students create. So being able to have the experience ahead of time, I think is really, really important. And if they're thinking about it at all, to go for it.